Over to you, Cameron.
Thanks very much, Kevin. And thanks everyone for being here. I'm very excited to be able to present to you. Hopefully it won't be too clunky. I'm going to be switching between screens, PowerPoints, and a few other things, and obviously GarageBand as well. So yeah, just forgive me if it's a little bit. I'm not sure where I am sometimes, but just to start, just wanted to let you know, or I'm presenting to you from the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. Offer all my respects to elders of these traditional lands and through them to Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples past and present, and particularly to anyone present here today with us who identifies as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. So, the first thing I have for you, hang on, see, it's already started. I don't know where I am. Just get into my PowerPoint here. And if you wanted to just jump into that website there, hopefully you can see that. Mentee.com, and there's a code there for you to enter. And there'll be some questions that'll come up, a couple of slides, which we'll go through. In fact, I think if I keep sharing, I can go over to it now, and you should see it. So there we go. Hopefully, can you still see that? Yeah, screen sharing, mentee.com, and use the code 390802085. And I'd just like to get a bit of a sense here of where you're at with either GarageBand or any other audio program. Yeah, just so I sort of know. Yeah, I'll give you about another 30 seconds to do that. I think we've got about, there's at least 12 or 15 participants here, so hopefully some more responses start rolling in. Six so far. That's better. Another couple of seconds and we'll go to the next one. All right, thanks for that. So that just gives me a bit of an idea of where you're at. Thank you. And maybe at the very end, you can show me some things on some of these programs because we're all still learning. This is a great program too, mentee.com, if especially at the moment with online, if you're looking to get responses from students, you can insert cool little programs here, or little images and stuff like that, and make things a bit more interactive. So yeah, and the next one, just a little bit of a sense from you. Oh gosh, how do I go to the next one? Here we go. Now, hopefully a speech thing should come up, and what would you like to take away from today? So it could just be as simple as, assessment ideas, because that's why we're here, obviously. Or it could be something really specific, like how do I edit a sound file, or how do I change the key of something, and then I can sort of see where we've matched. So hopefully you can see that option now. Even if it's just a couple of words. Awesome. Here we go. Assessing composition. Freshen things up, new ideas. Great. I need to write some of these down. This is awesome. Ideas for activities to do in case. Cool. That last one's great there. In an alternative school setting. That's awesome. Year 7 and 8. Good. Yep. I've got some options there, which we'll talk about at the end. Cool. That last one. Yep. These are awesome. Thanks, everyone. I'll give it another 10 to 15 seconds or so, and then we'll move on. I like this first one here, some sanity. I can't help you there, I'm afraid. Oh, I love that. Multi-track recordings for singers. Totally. Totally. Please, whoever typed that, please remind me at the end, and we can look at or the way that I would approach it. Yeah, hopefully you can get something for your singers. That'd be really cool. All right. Thank you so much for that. I'm just going to make a couple of notes of some of those. I think from what I've seen, hopefully I'm answering a lot of these questions with the presentation, which is the whole point, I guess. So that's good. Thanks for that, everyone. I'll jump back to my PowerPoint now. Cool. So what and why? I guess this is just a brief description of why you signed up for today, and which I wrote in the flyer for it. But just very briefly, I taught a course a couple of years ago, and we're finding this in our schools, or in my school, I was finding that more and more students were choosing our elective subjects, and they were running the electives, but the students didn't really have much information or knowledge prior to year 9 or year 10 or instrumental experience, and they just kind of thought music electives would be something fun to do for a bit. And then as teachers, I was sort of seeing that us as a department, we were just, I guess, assuming that they had instrument knowledge, and then not really being able to cater to them in a really meaningful way. With the students involved in the instrumental program or band program, fine. But I had a chance to teach a group of year 10s that were a really great group of students, but they didn't have the experience necessarily in music, but they were really into this kind of stuff that we're going to explore, making beats, making loops, and so it just got me thinking about all this kind of stuff that's listed here. So trying to do what electives do, which is appeal to a broad range of students, and try to trap them into a net where they can maybe be funneled into a senior music pathway that they didn't expect. Because at one point or another, we were all, I don't know about you, but I didn't think that I was going to be a music teacher. And some experiences happened to me along the way that sort of compelled it to happen, I suppose. So yeah, trying to cater for those with minimal musical experience or theory knowledge. Easily extendable and adjustable. So I guess we're going to talk about ways to scale them up and scale them down based on the cohort of your students. So really making them flexible for your cohort and for your context. Overall, one of the things I really enjoy teaching is genre, song structure, and musical language and analysis. And this is a great way to introduce that concept. If you've got a VCE class, there's some good links to the VCE outcomes there. But even just for general English skills and language skills, this stuff can be really handy. And multiple assessment modes. So it's not just about marking the song at the end, or it certainly is about that, but there's other ways that we can do it too. So we'll explore some of those. How do I go to my next? Oh, just a click. So why GarageBand? So pretty, Macs are fairly common these days in terms of people using them. Students have, they probably know it from their iPhone or iPad. You might have iMac labs in your schools already, or you may be advocating for them. And they come preloaded with GarageBand. It's really easy. You can drag and drop the loops, which we'll explore in a moment. And they're really, I think it's really user friendly at the most simple level. In terms of getting more into the audio side of things, as a sound production teacher, there is that way to expand it through, doing recording projects and looking at EQ and effects. So hopefully I'll be able to cover off some of that as well, because there's some really fun stuff that you can do there that makes your pieces sound a little bit more interesting. If you are already teaching in a school that does a vet sound production course and you're running other DAWs or Logic is a program that's like the pro version, if you will, of GarageBand. So many vet sound production courses use that. Or just the next door, so it might be a Pro Tools or a Reaper or something like that. GarageBand will just be a good entrance, I suppose. So it doesn't necessarily mean you can't do any of these things in other DAWs, but it does. But by the way, when I say DAW, just so you know, digital audio workstation is what that stands for. So I'm going to keep saying that because teachers love acronyms. All right, so we're going to go over to GarageBand, and my plan here is just to make a track, really, and to talk about, the process. And I don't really mean for it to be a like a how-to on GarageBand. I've got some links that I'll share with you later on to do that. So we'll just go over and create a track. I think the sound works okay. If you want to use headphones, you can. But yeah. Here's one I prepared earlier, but I'm not going to do, I might show you that later. Actually, I might just stop my share now because I want to make sure I'm sharing my sound. Just forgive me. There we go. Okay. So there's one I made earlier, but I think it would be cool if I create one from scratch, because then you can kind of see what it looks like from the very start, right? I guess I am assuming a little bit of prior knowledge to some of these things, so please forgive me if I go too fast or there's something that you don't understand. Thanks for that. Again, those how-to links at the end of the presentation will be helpful to you, and I've got another browser-based DAW that we'll explore at the very end that that you can actually practice this stuff right, like, straight away with your classes, and it really works in the same way. So we've got our audio track there. You might want to go and create maybe 3 or 4 new tracks. So just track up here, think about what a band would be. So let's just go with maybe 3 or 4 for now. I'll do it that way for now. And if you click on the thing that looks like the funky roller coaster on the right over here, you get the loop library. If you've got your school computers, you need to make sure you're friends with your IT department to let you download all of these, because there's quite a lot. And so you can sort them by genre, you can sort by instrument, or a few other things. So I like to let's go by instrument, I reckon. And we'll start with drums. Where else would you start? And so just over here, you can try out or audition, if you will, all of the beats. Let's go with a bit of 80s there. So just drag that one in. And once I drag it in, it's there. I can expand it like that just by grabbing it. And so I've got my grid up here nicely that shows me where the bar numbers are. There's my measures. One thing you want to make sure of, you've got snap to grid switched on, which means it will automatically go to the bar number. If you just unselect that, it goes all slippery. And so it'll be important later when we're copying things in and you want to make things line up to your bar numbers. In terms of your tempo, you can adjust that over here. And so that tempo will automatically adjust if it's probably a bit fast. So you can adjust that there as you want to. Let's get some bass. So again, I'm just going to select bass and why not? That sounds good. So sometimes they're a little bit longer than what you want. That's okay. We can probably going to make it long anyway, so just match that up. And maybe a bit of synth or a bit of guitar. What do we got? Maybe some acoustic. What's there in acoustic? So at this point, you want to start listening closely to your key and your tonality and try to match it up that way. And obviously, I'll talk a little assessment. Great, you know, in terms of like this, students do it and then talk about why it might not sound so good that you've got your bass line in F major and your other instruments, you know, in another key. And that can be a good way to sort of start exploring that stuff. Let's just go with that for now. Hopefully that works. You can expand it like this. You can also, sometimes the loops are quite short and they won't let you expand it. You can just make sure it's selected like that, and you can see over here that I've just grabbed the track. So I've selected the track, and then just your classic commands like you're in Word. So I'm using a Mac now, so Command C to copy it over and over again. Let's see if it sounds any good. I don't actually know. All right, things that are in the same key or the same chord are always good. So there's basic 3 tracks. One thing I was exploring while I was preparing this was some sound effects. So it can be cool, you know, especially with movies and stuff like this, like drag and drop some sound effects in there, and it can make it sound a little bit that kind of stuff can be cool if you want to make it. And so obviously that's pretty intuitive to me or to us as music teachers, I guess. Oh, thanks for that question. Yeah, iPad or this is, so I'm using my Mac here and this is my laptop. So yeah, if you're on a phone or an iPad, it'll look completely different and you won't get the same kind of functionality. Yeah, so that's a good question, and thanks for the person who answered that. So I guess straight away, I've already, you know, it kind of makes musical sense. You've got, after 2 bars, something comes in. Or maybe you might put these back here actually on the 5th bar. So it all kind of lines up. That way. I think the best thing probably to do to begin with is to just get students to explore and to muck around with it. They're gonna have to, I suppose, work out, you know, how it all works, and the best way is just to drag it in. If if you try, probably in my experience, if you try kind of teaching it from this point, it's going to take a really, really long time. So sort of having them learn by exploring is a really, really good way to do it. So I might just go back over to my PowerPoint for a second. And just from doing that, there's a few things that are inherent kind of form, and this might be your lesson. So that would be like maybe you're working towards your assessment or your actual project. But in terms of like what your lessons are to build towards an assessment, because obviously this is about assessment, what are you teaching? Well, you're teaching about song structure, you're teaching about form, you're teaching about bars and what they are, you're teaching about groupings of 4, 8, 12, 16 as different elements come in after that predictable thing, especially with pop music and contemporary music. You're talking about instruments and their roles and what they do. So drums, talk about the fact that every song is going to have drums or bass and some sort of keyboards or harmonic line. The role of the frequencies, if you want to go down that path, melodic instruments, higher frequencies, and do listening exercises which are informed by this. So you could get a YouTube clip out or Spotify or whatever, the students' music that they're listening to, and explore it that way. So start talking about the tempo and the beat and notice how things come in after every 4 bars or 8 bars, or things start to change in the chorus and that kind of stuff. We talked a little bit about the tempo and those things, so that's cool. And I mentioned the tonality. So this is where, you need to be careful when you're doing your lessons. You could really go down a bit of a rabbit warren here. Are you really going to spend, I'm not sure how many you might get in an elective, like in terms of your classes. I think I had about, in my year 10 one, I might have had 7 or maybe 5 50-minute periods a cycle, every 2 weeks. So for a group of students who don't know anything about keys and scales and chords, how much are you really going to want to teach why 2 things don't sound correct together, or why they clash, and what even clashing is, and even if they can hear it or not? That was something that I found that I had to manage quite carefully, because as music teachers, we want to explain what we know about, and we know about we know about chord scale theory and all those sorts of things. But what might this group of students want to do? They want to make beats, and they want to make sounds that sound cool together. So by all means, you can extend it that way if you want to, especially if you've got a group of instrumental students or VCE students with some prior knowledge. But just that's something to keep in mind, I suppose. So yeah, in terms of the content, still going on with the lesson content. So this, the genre and style. So craft to the student's interest. So you might give them some instructions on what to do for their genre, or like you show them where to find so what's your favorite type of music? Let's go to find those 80 beats, those 80s beats, or those synth sounds, or those modern hip hop beats and that kind of thing. Or indeed, you could use it as a way to expose them to new information and new styles and genres. A great one for this, and I might actually at this point just swap over to my other project that I had pre-arranged. So what am I talking about here? Texture and dynamics. This is a great way to explore texture and dynamics, because it's all laid out in front of you in terms of, should I save that? Yeah, I'll save that. I really just like the way GarageBand looks. And so it's much the same as the last one. I actually have another one that's much more comprehensive. Maybe I think I meant to load that one up. Sorry about this. This is the one I mean. So I'll come back to this one a fair bit. But, in terms of texture and layering and dynamics, it's a really cool way to talk about it because you can see it all laid in front of you here, that you can not only hear that there's more going on in what might be a chorus section, but you can actually see it with the files here. So if you go to the end here, you know that there's going to be loads happening. So it's a great way to talk, again, linking it back to the music that students are already listening to, noticing what happens in a verse, what happens in a breakdown, that it's a bit more chilled out, the layering is a bit more thin, there's maybe less instrumentation, or it's a bit more simple. Then in the chorus, it builds up and there's more instrumentation. What does that mean? Well, this is what it can look like and exactly what it means, and we'll get to the assessments in a moment, which will explain it. But I just wanted to go back again for a couple of, because I know there's people that haven't done much of this before, some great sort of controls, I suppose. Here on the left-hand side for each of your tracks is like your solo track here, so the headphones, which will isolate the track you select. Or mute them. So yeah, that's really cool. And you've got your panning effects as well. So panning is about which speaker that it's going into. Like, is it your left side or your right side? I don't really trust Zoom and its audio to really demonstrate this to you properly, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But if you wanted a particular line here, like this one here, that piano line there, I could put in the left speaker only. Oh, it's not going to sound. So again, starting a little bit advanced here, but you can start talking about sonic spacing and how tracks are arranged, and again, relating it back to what students might be listening to and where they notice certain parts in music are. Yeah, so that's cool. Let me just get back to my PowerPoint. Again, talking about tone color and arranging techniques appropriate to the genre and the style. So you could probably already hear the sort of music that I'm into, but that, this kind of stuff I love when I'm doing it, because I work on Sibelius a bit and arrange for my band, and I love doing stuff like this where you've got the band break, the groove. But you just have something cut out all of a sudden. So that can be really, really effective, and it's quite easy to do. Just going back to what I showed you before about dragging the loops around. Or the other way to do it is a good shortcut I found, especially last year when I was doing loads of stuff in the studio. Command T will split your track at what they call the playhead. So that will, if I go there and just go Command T, and I've selected the track, that'll split it where I have chosen to do that. So when you get into the arranging techniques and the stopping and the bringing in of new instruments, then that's where you can fold in like talking about your verse, talking about your choruses, your intros and your links and that sort of stuff, which is all in the assessment information, which I'll come to. Extended techniques, I'll show you a little bit of. How are we going for time? 5 o'clock, that's okay. Just very quickly for those that have a bit of experience, I'm sure you probably already know about this a little bit. It's actually not too much, it's more so in the other track. Yeah, that's the one. So if you click A in GarageBand, it's going to do this thing called show automation. And you can do this manually as well by going to Mix and show automation. And automation just refers to really effects and controls that are within each track. Now, if I go to my rock guitar track here, at the moment volume is selected, and basically I can control there the volume, and I've chosen to do a little bit of a fade out. I've chosen to do some other things too, so I just want to draw your attention to them. Again, lots of other controls in here, but the four most simple ones, I guess, reverb and echo, so sort of adding a little bit of space and effect to the track, and echo as well. And so you literally just draw these. So let's do one on the echo. I thought I already had an echo written on that, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So, oh, maybe it's over here. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I bring the echo up here, and then I can increase that. So that will increase that effect on that track in the moment. And you can do the same on reverb. Also the same for panning. So you can see I've already done this, where I thought it would be cool with this track to change where you're listening to this instrument. Again, if you're on headphones, it's most effective. But for your students, you know, if they're listening to it, it's really cool. And I found my class really liked playing around with this quite a lot. So yeah, let's just have a listen to this track on solo, and hopefully you can hear some of the automation or effects that are applied to it. And so then you can hear that it faded out there because the volume one went right down to the bottom. And you can see the panning too, hopefully, on the left hand side there. It was going left to right, left as I was doing. What does it sound like in context with the whole track? So I used it as a sort of an effect to bring a new instrument in and a new section. So you talk about, you know, new sections and that sort of thing with your students. All right, let's move on to assessments and that sort of thing, because I'm just conscious of time. All these sorts of things you can do at the end, which are great. Like, so it's very easy to export MP3s, take screenshots to make that part of your assessments or your lessons. You can, you know, do sharing sessions, share with your school community, whether they've got Instagram or personal streaming accounts, SoundCloud, that sort of stuff, once their tracks are completed. Ultimately, you know, I just think of it as about problem solving, exploring the elements of music, and then creating a coherent piece of music. Sorry, hopefully you could see that. That was probably a bit small. Assessments. I'll just talk a little bit about what I did with this particular class and how I assessed them and what I did. And hopefully what I've talked about so far with GarageBand will make sense. So just forgive me while I, again, jump around. So this was the first project. And again, remembering, so I like to work from the end and then going back when I'm planning my classes and my units, I guess. So I go, okay, where do I want them to get? And then this is what I think will be cool or what will work. And then just like content now will work backwards from there. GarageBand project using the elements of music and try to be as descriptive as I can. Again, assuming that there's not prior knowledge of these sorts of things. So rhythm, what it is, what the instruments are commonly, harmony, what it is, you know, chords, synth samples, keyboards, guitars, melodies, what that is. Again, you could be showing them what harmony is and what melody is in your lessons as you work up to this. Instrumentation, we sort of talked about before. And then just really, really prescriptive. So this is aimed at year 10, so it's probably a little bit or sort of towards the end of advancing, giving them as much information as I possibly can and being as clear as I can. So making it sure that it's at least 2 minutes, 3 distinctive sections. So if I go back to my, the thing that's annoying about a GarageBand, you can't have seemingly multiple projects open at once, so you've got to switch between them. Again, 3 distinctive sections. Many students, what you find is, especially in the early days, they will just do, a couple of beats and then they think they're done. But you can see from here, you've got your introduction. You could say that that's sort of one section there, perhaps. Then you've got like a breakdown here that gets you into the main hook here. So you could call this introduction, link or interlude, and then a chorus, and then a fade out at the end. So there's my four or 5 sections. Again, and a description of these. What is a verse? What is a chorus? What do these things mean and what do they look like? Again, if you want to extend it, optional extra. Had some students do this, singers and stuff, use the audio interface to record themselves. So someone mentioned multi-tracks for singers. So this student, she actually, just created a really nice sounding backing track and then improvised some vocals over the top with some lyrics she wrote. It was really great. So we had the audio interfaces at school. If you don't, an audio interface is basically something that you can plug a microphone in. You plug the interface into your computer, and then it converts that information into something you can load into a GarageBand. So that's I guess the easy bit, is creating the actual track, and there's the enjoyable bit. And this is the sort of more heavy hitting part of it, I guess. A written report on the different elements of music you utilized and how they helped you shape the song structure. So this is what, again, you're going to be using the lessons that you do on language and music analysis to build up the report. So I'll just sort of leave this and you can have a little bit of a glance over it. And again, providing students with that sample. So sometimes you can't see where my hyperlinks are because of the way. So there's a sample project there. It links to a YouTube thing that's got a recording of that project you were just listening to. So that piece that I was just playing, yeah. So this is my written report that goes along with that piece. And so I'm talking about what role the different instruments are playing, where the, like, where the hook lines are, what the texture's doing and where it happens. And again, not expecting, especially those students without experience, I guess, to have that knowledge, but giving them an example of what 100% looks like. This is something I do with my Year 8 classes. So what would an A+ or a really strong assignment look like or sound like? Because how are they meant to know? Of course, just building the vocabulary up that way. So semester-based subject, might have been 5 or 6 weeks worth of lessons, including actual content and then including practicing on the assignment on GarageBand. And yeah, so that's one idea. To expand that a little bit further, I did some peer assessments. So it's really easy to do in GarageBand. I might not show you now because it'll just take a bit of time and I want to make sure I get through everything. But to further build their skills and confidence, I did stuff like this, where I would just create another track in GarageBand, and you just need a set of headphones, so you plug your headphones in, so program can't hear the sound, you plug some headphones in and then you hit this button here, which is record. I'll just show you what that looks like when we do it, and hopefully, I don't think it'll feedback at this point. 1 2 1 2. So that's recording my voice. It's also recording the sound you can hear out of the speakers. But of course, if you isolate it by using headphones, the computer won't be able to hear the track. And you can give some live feedback. So I got the students to do this, but then I also provided it myself when they assessed. So I might have looked something like this. Really enjoyed listening to it, and your report complements it really nicely. You've really done a really descriptive report outlining the different parts of the song, and you've used the appropriate terminology. To your actual track, it's really, there's lots going on. It's actually really fun to do it because you can be listening to things and then respond in the moment. And the whole point, and I tell this to the students too, is not to sort of spend loads of time crafting a great sort of feedback track. Like just talk freely for about a minute or so, and then give them the report. So I got, as well as doing this for the students, I got them to do this with each other. So I paired them up, and then gave them some specific instructions on how to do it. Of course, I covered this in class as well, and I'll give you access to all of this stuff so you can do it yourself. It's really easy. You then sort of export your version of that file with your feedback on it, and it's really great because the students learn how to put into practice what they've been learning in the lessons, and not just be writing it down and not just consuming it. They have to actually have a go at it. Some notes on, like, being nice to each other and how to give feedback. I thought was pertinent. Cool. So yeah, the theory component, like I said, up to you. Make it as large or as small as you want. If you've got a requirement for, say, your year 10s or even your year 9s to do exams, these were my sort of options that I gave them. I actually gave some of the students who might have gone on to do VCE a performance option, where in the last 4 weeks they were doing practicing on their solo instrument. Because this subject was called music performance arranging and composition. So this subject ran instead of our solo performance class. So there might have been students that ended up in this subject that were hoping to do solo performance. So sort of trying to be all things to all people in a way. You provide them with an outlet to play their instrument. Really, the exam is just a condensed version of the first project there. So if I can just find it. Yeah, exam examples. So this is what the exam was. Basically, I gave them this information. They had the brief, which they saw on the day of the exam, and they had to do a track to go for a minute, had 2 sections, had 5 instruments or 3 instruments, and it had a brief and a short. So really just exactly what I said, the same version, but just shorter and more compressed. And they had to export it by the end of the class and everything like that. And that was their exam, and hopefully by that point, they would have had practice on it by doing the first GarageBand project, and they, hopefully would have felt a bit more confident with some of these things. But it was very time, so specific time that they had to do that in, 1 hour and 40 minutes, or however long your exams go for. In terms of preparation for that, I've shared. I'll share this with you in a moment at the end. I had them practice, like I gave them some practice exams. So you might tell them to make a relaxed piece of music for a yoga studio, a sample rock or blues track, and then I actually gave them a practice exam, with very similar sort of instructions, but in a completely separate genre. I saved the one with the dance music for the exam because I knew that's what they would be most into, in a general sense, but being able to provide them with another example sort of hopefully expanded, their listening a little bit more. Cool. So there's some exam options. Good. Adjustments. So like I said, these for year 10 students, most with minimal formal music experience, and scale up and down to suit your cohort and classes. You could enhance the business and marketing and editing audio components if you're running vet sound production or performance classes. If you wanted to sort of focus on that more. Really, you could drill down into the theory and the language and analysis with the potential VCE class or students, or a class with lots of instrumental students. If you're, yeah, like I said, if the time allows, you can include a performance or component stream, or combine it and have the students choose. I want to play my saxophone or my trombone with my track, which I have made, and have them choose. Like, I think there should be way more of that type of thing. In terms of linking to the Victorian curriculum, every time I read the Victorian curriculum, I'm just like, well, everything works, in terms of what you choose to do in your classes. But specifically in year 9 and 10, I just put some stuff in there about manipulating combinations of the elements of music in a range of styles using technology and notation. It all kind of works. It doesn't necessarily always need to be about performance. In terms of your pathways, very quickly on this, so you might start at year 9, say, then you go into a year 10 elective, which is, let's say, what this is. Then you might have students going into sound production 2-year course, or performance 2-year course, or over to VCE performance and the VCE streams there. Teaching vet sound production, there's more and more institutions offering fast track entry to students with the certificate 3. So that's what you get when you complete the vet course. You get a certificate 3. So and you don't need an ATAR. Even some schools, so my school allows year 9s, year 9 sort of chosen an elective going into year 10. They might do a vet subject like sound production. So you can, depending on your school structure, you can allow them to do it that way. If you're starting a program from scratch, you've got a young program, you could think about incorporating this in some way, I suppose. Further resources. So again, I've got a PDF of this, which I'll put in the chat at the end. So there's some advanced stuff in loops and GarageBand there. There's some advanced loop editing. If you want to get more into DAWs, there's this thing called Reaper, which is a free one that's available. That's like, it's a more sort of heavy hitting DAW. I don't think it comes with sort of too many loops and stuff, but it is quite functional if you want to do that advanced stuff. And if you're doing year 7 and 8 stuff, so I did see a couple of things come through about that. These things are great because they're all browser based. You would know about Chrome Music Lab, I'm sure, and maybe you heard of Soundtrap. I used that a bit last year, but there's Soundtrap's a subscription thing now. But there's BandLab that's free, which I'll show you in a moment, and Soundscape World, which was really fun. That I've got a pre-service teacher with me at the moment who was using that. So I might just show you these very quickly, because how quickly does time go by? And I want to get your question. So just this is all just in the browser, so anyone can use this with an internet connection, and you can already see that it's laid out in exactly the same way, by and large, as what GarageBand is. So you've got that there, and you've got your loops, which I can't see because of my... So you just drag and drop them over. Again, tempo, you can see it's all laid out in the same way. And this is a great forum because it really allows for, it really taps into the social media type thing. So you can be sharing and collaborating with people. You can, if you create an education account, you can create classes. So you can see everyone there depending upon how much time you got. So it's a great one to use now, with lockdown. This one is really cool. I don't know if you've come across this, Soundscape World. This could be good for a year 7 class. Loading. I'll give you 5 more seconds, and then I'm going to click on this one. All right, here we go. So What I love about that is as you click the different things, it all queues it up in, again, in 2-bar or 4-bar or 8-bar forms, depending upon how soon you click them. So it's if you've used that French thing that was huge a while ago, with the heads. I can't think of the name now. Incredibox, that's what it is. It's a bit like that, but a bit more relaxing. Oops, where have we gone? So, yep, those links are in there. So in a Google Drive folder that I'll share with which you've got the link on there. So if you just hover over that in the PDF, that will take you to this, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff in there, including rubrics, including comment banks, including all those instructions and things I've shown you, a spoken feedback sample. If you've got GarageBand itself, hopefully that will work, the sample track, an exported version of the sample track. So yeah, that's all yours to take and adjust, do with it what you will. And yes, that gives us about 7 minutes. Oh, and there's my email too if you want to touch base or ask me any questions. That's what I have, Kevin. So hopefully that's helpful to people. So I guess, Kevin, do people ask questions via chat, or I'm going to take that as a yes. Good.
Cameron, I'm not sure where Kevin is, but
Right.
I think if everyone just perhaps look at some of the questions in the chat, but if people just want to unmute and just
I was double muted. Sorry, I was. I'm muted.
How do you get?
I'm here now.
Mute too. Wow.
Okay.
I'm muted on my microphone as well as my computer. Yeah. So look, if
you turn your camera on, Kevin.
Pardon?
You turn your camera on.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, I turned that off too.
So Cameron, you could ask people to unmute. They can ask you direct questions as well as through the chat.
Yep, that's fine. I'm just looking at the questions now, and before I do anything else, I want to upload the PDF. So that's done, and people can start grabbing that, because I just know that I'll forget. So just give me a moment here. Sorry. All right. That's just uploading now. Hopefully it comes through. Yeah. Is the iPad version capable of what you have shown us today? Maybe someone else could help there. I haven't actually used the iPad version in a while. I don't think it is, in terms of the layout of those tracks and what you saw with multiple arranging like that. My understanding from the use of the iPad one, it's more about playing and experimenting, like strumming on chords and hitting parts of a drum kit. So yeah, I don't think so. That's not to say that it's not good to use, but in terms of that DAW sort of format, I don't think. Equivalents to GarageBand. That's a good question. I guess some of those browser-based ones that I've shown you are really helpful to use straight away. That'd be a PC equivalent. Things that work across multiple platforms are things like Pro Tools, but again, it's a bit like you have to have a Mac, or you have to purchase it to have access to that. Like I said, that one called Reaper is free. There's a link in that PDF that I've just sent. You might be able to drag and drop in loops from that separately. There is a way to do it, but it's a bit more clunky, I think, than just GarageBand that has the loops preloaded. What you want is a program with preloaded loops for this sort of content, and that is going to be GarageBand or those browser-based doors. Has the PDF come through? You just no. Oh, some people are. Oh, I sent it to one person, and that person knows who they are. Because I saw someone who I knew, so I said hello.
Lucky that person.
Apologies. It's not my intention to be exclusive over here. All right. Try that. Me to everyone. That looks better. It's a hefty one. It's 6 megabytes, so it's coming your way. Leah said Cakewalk is a good free software. Awesome. Yeah, I've heard of Cakewalk. Haven't used it. Anything that's free is good, especially at the moment.